because if this were performed, you know, in the 1920s, you know, and a lot of people will think about this play as performances pre-Holocaust versus post-Holocaust. There is a very different feel to Shylock. If you watch some of the old movies, like they did a silent adaptation of this movie. It is so offensive. I wouldn't even show you clips from it. Like it is ridiculously offensive. And yet when you see later productions, it is super sympathetic and nothing changes in the language. It's not like they're like switching up certain words to give it that kind of different performance. It is just the way that it is being performed. So we're gonna read now Act 3, Scene 1. It's one of the more, well, it contains one of the most famous speeches in Shakespeare. You know, there's the Hamlet, to be or not to be, there's Romeo's wooing of Julia, and then there's Shylock's speech here. So let's assign some characters. We've got Salanio and Salerio. Yeah. And we've got Shylock. I'm just gonna play the man because he's only as one line. There's Tubble. And that is it. And Kylie, if you would like to play a character, you totally could. So just for this, we're just gonna do this first scene. Who would like to play Salanio? Jaden? Who would like to play Salerio? Okay, now Shylock's the big part. Who would like to play Shylock? Kylie? Okay.
I call.
Okay, and then Tubble is his friend, Emberly. Okay, cool. And for those of you who didn't get to read, you get to do it next time because there's going to be plenty of characters in this. Okay, so Act 3, Scene 1 is on page 47. Yeah. They're going to talk about Antonio first. And remember, Antonio basically, he doesn't have the money that he has put up, or he would have just lent it to Bassanio. That's why they have to go to Shylock to get the money. But Antonio has a bunch of different ships that are going to make him bank when they come back. All right, go ahead, Salanio.
Now what news on the Rialto?
Why, yet it lives there unchecked, that Antonio hath a ship of rich landing wracked on the narrow seas, the Goodwin. I think they call the place a very dangerous flat and fatal, where the carcasses of many a tall ship lie buried, as they say, if my gossip report be an honest woman of the world.
I would she were as lying and gossip an ass as ever kidnapped Ginger and made her neighbors believe she wept for the death of her third husband. But it is true, without any ships at all Lake City, or crossing the plain highway of talk with the good Antonio, the honest Antonio, oh, that I had a title good enough to keep his name from.
Come, full stop.
Huh, what sayest thou? Why in the end does he have lost a ship?
I would it might prove the end of his losses.
Let me say amen, that betimes, lest the devil cross my prayer, for here he comes in the likeness of a Jew.
So Antonio's ships have been wrecked. He has lost his money. Like he is now so far in debt. And enter Shylock, and Salanio says,
"Oh now, Shylock, what news among the merchants?
You knew none so well as you will find out.
That's certain. I support new tailor that made the things she flew with.
And Shylock, for his own part, knew the bird was pledged, and then it is the compulsion of them all to eat the day.
That's certain, if the devil may be her judge.
My own flesh and blood to the past.
Out upon an old carrying rebels at easy years.
I say my daughter is my flesh and my blood.
There is more difference between thy flesh and hers, between jet and ivory, more between your blood than there is between bread and wine, Rhenish. But tell us, do you hear whether Antonio have had any loss at sea or no?
There I have another bad match. A bank rat. Prodigal who dared scarce show his head over Rialto, a beggar that was so small. Let him look to his bond that he was more probably excused for that he was his bond. He was more that money for a Christian let him look to his bond.
Why am I sure if he forfeit thou will not take his flesh.
what that's good for.
Okay, so remember the loan was like, if Antonio doesn't provide the money, Shylock gets to take a pound of Antonio's flesh from wherever Shylock pleases.
That's kind of sick.
And Salario's like, you wouldn't take the flesh, like that's not good for anything. And Shylock is going to say,
My fish fall is that if it will feed nothing else, it will feed my revenge. He has to scrape me and he will laugh at my losses, mock at my gains, and sorted my bargains, fooled my friends, heated mine enemies, and wetted I would do. Hath not a Jew eyes, hath not a Jew hands, or instruments, affections, possessions, fed with the same food, built with the same weapons, subject to the same built by the same feet, formed and cooled by the same motion, summer as a Christian. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? If we are like you and the rest, we will resemble you with that. If a Jew wrong a Christian, what is his humility? Revenge. The Christian wrong a Jew, what should he suffer? What should his sufferance be by Christian sin? By revenge. The villainy you teach me, I will execute. I will work hard, but I will better do.
okay. Enter a man from Antonio. Gentlemen, my master Antonio is at his house and desires to speak with you both.
We have been up and down to see him.
Enter Tubble.
Here comes another of the tribe. A third cannot be matched unless the devil himself sends you.
And Salario, Salanio, and the man leave.
How now, Tubble? What news from Diana? Hast thou found my daughter?
I often came where I did hear of her, but cannot find her.
Why, there. The diamond gone cost me 2,000 ducats in Frankfurt. The curse never fell upon our nation till now. I never felt it till now. 2,000 ducats in that and other precious things. I would my daughter were dead at my foot and I know in her ear. Would she hold her at my foot and the ducats in her pocket? No news of that, why so? And I know not what sent in the search, why thou lost not lost. The thief gone with so much time to sleep and no satisfaction, no revenge, no ill luck stirring, but what lights on my shoulders in the sight of my reading was full.
Yes, other men have ill luck too. Antonio, as I heard in Genoa.
What? A luck?
Hath any argosy passed away coming from
Tripoli. Yeah.
I thank God. Is it true?
I spoke with some of the sailors and escaped the wreck.
I thank thee, good to all, for trouble. Good news. Haha, heard in Genoa.
Your daughter spent in Genoa, as I heard, one night 4 ducats.
Thou sitst dagger in me, I shall never see my home again. 4 ducats, and I was sitting 4 ducats.
There came diverse of Antonio's creditors in my company to Venice, that swear he cannot choose but break.
I am very glad of it. I'll place him, I'll punish him, and I will.
One of them showed me a ring that he had of your daughter for a month.
Out upon her, thou Torres gate to the it was my turquoise. I had it up late. When I was a bachelor, I was not given it for.
But Antonio is certainly undone.
Nay, that's true. That's very true. Oh, double and fight. Be me an officer. To speak him a fortnight before, I will have the heart of him before. I can make you up for that. Oh, double and yes, my God, so good to them. Double ladders.
Okay, so Shylock is very upset that his daughter is left. The way that he frames that anger is through the money that she took. When Tubble reports, Tubal, I don't know how to say it, reports on the daughter, he's like, she is spending a ton of money in Genoa. And one thing that she spent in Genoa is a turquoise ring. And Shylock is like, that is the ring that my wife gave me. Leah is Shylock's wife. So the implication here is that Leah has died. And now the daughter has kind of cruelly taken all of these jewels, including like keepsakes, and gone out and spent them. And for ridiculous things. Like one of the things she buys is a monkey. So did she buy the, yeah, she bought the monkey with the turquoise ring. So it's like this sentimental, basically like a wedding ring. And he was like, I wouldn't have given that away for a forest full of monkeys. So when we think of Shylock, sometimes we think of him being sort of like a money grubber, like in a very Jewish stereotype way, right? Like, I just want all the money, right? I want to collect it and not spend it. But there's this sentimental value to it too. There's something that like kind of proves that he has connections, even in this Jewish ghetto, through the things that he owns. And Jessica has gone and taken that. So in response, he's like, you know, he's very worked up, and we kind of hear where he's planning to take that pound of flesh. Where is he planning to take it from?
Fishing.
Well, he says I could use it for fishing bait, right? Like, I see what you mean. Like, he's gonna take it, and he's like, who cares what I do with it? I'll use it for fish bait, right? But in this very last speech, he says, I will have the heart of him if he forfeit. So he's like, I'll take the pound of flesh. I'll take a pound of his heart. You know, like, it's like, I'm going to murder this guy. It's not going to be like his extra club. Okay, so this is that speech that says, hath not a Jew eyes, hath not a Jew organs. That is the very famous speech from this play. So I'm going to give you.
That one was like really interesting. Like it did.
Yeah. And that's really important. He doesn't write that in verse. He writes it in prose. It's very readable. It's very clear. There's nothing fancy in the language. Okay, so we're just looking at the first little speech here. With the groups you were working in before, and Kylie, I'm going to send you. Actually, you have the speech, right, on your phone. Okay, I'm just going to have you. I'm going to move you to the group, and it's the one that says to bait fish withal. It's on line 50, and you guys are going to discuss it together. You don't need to write anything. Okay, but the rest of you guys are going to annotate this speech where you're just going to write what it means. So to the two sides or underneath, or you're going to kind of go line by line and say, do I understand what this means? If it's not like super clear, then make a little note to yourself to sign it. Then we're going to watch it perform the whole time. Give you like 5 minutes to look through the speech and uncover the different things. And you're doing this in your little groups. No, I didn't. Did you? Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What did you perform as?
Jacob Black.
Basically,
You were in that one.
basically,
I really wish I could.
Yeah,
Not that part. I mean,
it was really funny
basically Antonia's a
because happening because I thought people were like mad or something.
I mean, you weren't new, were you?
No, I made a
basically
Oh, okay.
Antonia's life,
Yeah, I heard it was hilarious.
for no reason. That's it. Not fish.
You mean Shylock?
Yeah.
So you're just going line by line, figuring out what this means.
Like when it says, if it will feed nothing else, it will be my revenge. And then it says, like, and what's his reason? I am a Jew. Like, he's saying if he can, like, he can hate me for like a silly reason, then just like take his flesh for whatever reason I want.
But then also like, I feel like in a way he's kind of justifying. Antonio is better than taking advantage of that just because he's a Jew. And so it's kind of like, it was his reason just because I'm a Jew, but I'm doing this for like if he breaks a threat or whatever, that's what it means. Yeah.
So it's like, has no reason to hate me, but I do have reason to get attention. It says hindered me half a million. I think that's just referring to he lost, like, he's so hard that he's like lost him on.
Also, it's kind of like we can't have what I'm going through.
It kind of shows like his English and question. Aren't we the same as everyone else? Don't we have hands and organs? With the same food and like all the question marks, like it's almost like it almost sounds kind of bleeding like.
It's kind of like he's basically kind of saying like it's one small thing that would make it like someone was making fun of somebody because they could like they like you know what I mean? Yeah. So he's kind of like and you want us to know
yeah. He's like drawing all these parallels between
like you want
yeah.
I gotta plug in the computer. Okay, so I want to show you two actors who have played this part discussing their choices, how they played the part. So you've got Patrick Stewart, you know, Professor X, and Captain Picard. How we know. He played Shylock once, and then there is another actor there that I don't know. The ghost.
Well, no, my orientation.
Oh.
Well, that's
Sorry, it gets very dark in here without windows. Okay, Kylie, I'm going to share the screen for you. Oh.
I'd like to get it out of the way because I remember when I was coming up to actually perform the role, I'd get letters from America telling me or questioning even the very fact that I was doing the role in the first place. How dare I do Shylock, you know? And I think that we all have to be very, very careful not just to respond to the play in relation to the 20th century Holocaust? Yes, Patrick, what do you think?
Perhaps for the first time, the last time in this program, I find myself totally agreeing with David. The anti-Semitism, the alleged anti-Semitism of the play across the breed is not an anti-Semitic play, it has anti-Semitic elements, is a distraction. But I also believe that the Jewishness, which is so often emphasized in legend, is equally a distraction. David's right, for us in the second half of the 20th century, the anti-Semitic expressions in the play are going to reverberate very powerfully. And the director and the actor will need to emphasize them. The reverberation will be present anyway, but you cannot avoid them, you can't underplay them. I think, however, to concentrate on Jewishness is to avoid the great potential of the character, which is his universality. I think that whenever I've seen a very ethnic, a very Jewish Shylock, I felt that something has been missing, something has been lost from the performance. Shylock is essentially an alien, an outsider. I think if you see him as a Jew, first and foremost, then he's in danger of becoming only a symbol. I think that Shylock is an outsider who happens to be a Jew. Would you challenge that?
Yes, I would. Only insofar as that I would interpret Shylock, I'm an outsider, not who happens to be a Jew, but because I'm a Jew. I think that the Jewish element in the play, I think, is unavoidably very important. I think this is probably where we differ. It's probably in our interpretations. I'm looking forward to seeing what your Shylock is like. Because in each of the scenes, and they're not that many, well, in three of the scenes, I mean, Shakespeare does manage to bring a wonderful change in the way that Shylock, the Jew, has a business relationship, a family relationship, how he responds to his enemies, how he responds to his friends, and also how he demonstrates the laws of the land in which he lives. And I think also when Shakespeare never lets us, the audience, or the character forget the Jewish thing. One only has to look at the trial scene to realize that Shylock's name, even having been asked, Shylock is my name, that he's only actually called by his name, Shylock, 6 times, Jew, 22.
Okay, well now let's dig into the part. We're beginning to find already what we find everywhere with Shakespeare, that there's an infinite number of interpretations. Each actor coming to play the part has to start afresh. So where does he start? He'll probably begin by reacting against previous interpretations. His starting point, I suppose, for most actors is the crucial question: what did he look like? How did he talk? I should state here that when the part was originally offered to me, my inclination was to refuse it for one principal reason, which was that it seemed to me that the part was eternally stuck in a kind of tradition, a ritual about the role. That if I were to play Shylock, then it would necessarily mean long, exotic, perhaps semi-oriental gowns, either shabby or decorative to taste. That there was so much traditional appearance and traditional behavior attached to the role that I could never free myself from it. I could never find a human being at the heart of that exterior, that set exterior. So, well, as I began to read the play, of course, something else began to appear, something else began to unfold about the character, and I found that indeed there was a highly complex and very modern creation. I decided, therefore, that I would avoid the easily recognizable symbolic elements of Jewishness, the ringlets, the gown, and the nose, and so on, although I should say that I had a very large, bushy beard and a lot of long, dirty, tangly hair. And I wore a shabby, dirty, broken down frock coat, because I think that the most important thing for Shylock in the play is money, possessions, and finance. Having it, therefore, you're not going to waste it on how you appear. So I made an attempt to make my Shylock very shabby and down at heel. As for the voice, one thing influenced me. Shylock is living in a strange culture, an alien culture. I think that in order to survive, it's necessary, one of the ways of surviving in an alien culture is to assimilate yourself into it. Therefore, I gave him an accent which was more cultured, more native than the natives. So I gave him a cultured, over-cultured, and over-refined accent, much more so than the aristocrats in the play. You see, I think that the foreignness in Shylock, that which is truly strange and exotic, lies in the language, not in how he appears. No one in The Merchant of Venice speaks like Shylock, not even his fellow Jew Tubal. If you take, for instance, the Laban speech, there is so much rich, curious, bizarre use of language in that speech that that alone says foreigner.
Right. So, Gabe, what about you? I chose everything in opposition. I also discovered, as you did in the language, there is a certain rhythm to the language, which I went with to the extent of even going further with the lilt and slight accent. I didn't place the accent in any particular area at all, but I wanted to make it foreign with the language that was foreign, because I felt that was important. I never wanted anybody to forget or that I was an outsider from that point of view. And it's something that I felt Shylock would not have tried to alter, because my Shylock's very proud of his Jewishness. And why hide it? Exploit it where necessary, if necessary, which I think he does in the first scene.
Isn't that dangerous, exploiting it? Isn't that?
No, I don't think so. But I think I think it's human behavior. But I think also my dress, if I could just say, was smart because yes, motivation, money, absolutely agree. But with those that he deals with, he asks what news on the Rialto, the stock exchange, banking, money. I think that he would dress according to the status that he believes he has.
Yes. As director of the play each time, I found both those images totally acceptable, totally consistent with the text. There's never one answer. One always keeps feeling that. I was as totally convinced by the one as by the other. But we've got through the preliminaries. We should start to dig into the play itself. So what about this?
I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna end it there. So those are talking about different choices that they made with the character. Let's watch this speech in two different ways.
To bait the fish with all. There was even nothing else to feed my revenge. He disgraced me, handed me $500,000, laughed at my losses, mocked at my gains, scorned my nation. Wanted my bargains, called my friends, he mine enemies. What's his reason? But you, twice. I felt you had organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions, fed with the same food, but with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as a Christian. We must not believe. You tickle us, do we not know? Poison us, do we not die? You rule us, shall we not revenge? We are like you and the rest, we will resemble you in that. A Jew on a Christian, what is his humility? Revenge. A Christian on a Jew, what should it suffer to be by Christian example? By revenge. The villainy you teach, I will execute. And it shall go hard. I will better the instruction.
Okay, so that's one version. And then I wanted to show you the Al Pacino version from the 2004 film. There's a really good Merchant of Venice from 2004, but for some reason, and I don't know why, there's nudity in the background for his entire speech. So I am just going to show you him recreating that on a Zoom call. So this is quite, it's different in the how much emotion he puts into this, you'll see.
Debate, what will I do with the flesh? I guess I would make the fish. If it feed not the bad, it would feed my He has disgraced me, hindered me, laughed at my losses, mocked at my gains, scorned my nation, thwarted my bargains, cooled my friends, heated my enemies, and what is his reason? I am the Jew rising, the Jew organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions, fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as a Christian is. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? Poison us, do we not die? And if you harm us, shall we not revenge? If we are like you in the rest, we will resemble you in that. If a Jew wrong a Christian, what is his humility? Revenge. If a Christian wrong a Jew, what should his sufferance be? A Christian example. We are like you in the rest. We shall resemble you. Divinity teach me. Be in
All right, so I wanted to pause and make sure that we really felt the weight of that scene. Like, this is a scene that you will hear referenced in your life. This is a speech that you're gonna come across. That, especially that line that says, "If you prick us, do we not bleed?" That shows up in popular culture all of the time. So, yeah, Elrose. Yeah, tell me. Yeah.
Angry, but one sorrowful angry, and then the second one was more like a resentful angry.
Yeah.
Emotional, but
totally. Which do you think is more justified by the play so far? You feel like the second, like the first one in his sort of like sadness doesn't feel authentic to the Shylock that we know in this play. Why do you think that? Yeah, Kelly.
The play kind of goes off of like Jewish stereotypes and being often Jewish stereotypes. Of the devil and they don't have a motion. So I feel like that's part of the reason that the first one feels like that's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't have emotions. Why would they feel sad about being sad?
Okay, good. So you're taking some of the like stereotypes that the play uses and saying like this is going to portray like a more anti-Semitic portrayal, so that even if we know where Shylock's coming from in the second speech, he does have an air of villainy about him in that second speech. Yeah. If you are curious about that, the 2004 film, like there is some nudity, female nudity, but it's not super excessive, like it's not all over the place. It's a really interesting movie for that performance alone, for Al Pacino's performance alone. Okay, let's keep going with the play. I want to keep reading so that we can get a little bit more in. Scene 5, there's 5 scenes, or 5 acts. Thank you. But Act 5 is super short, so we're going to be fine. We are going to finish that by the end of the year. Everybody. Oh, okay. So for this scene, we need a Portia. Who wants to? Yeah. We need a Bassiano who is over the top in love with Portia.
I would.
Yeah. We need those two for a while. We need a Nerissa, who is the handmaid. Anybody want to play Nerissa? Really? And then we need a Graciano. Sally Rose, honestly. There's a lot of people in this. We need a Lorenzo, who is in love with Jessica. That's Shylock's daughter. I know, it's weird, huh? It's from, but is it Jessica from the Bible? Jessica name? Oh, maybe not. Sorry. That's my biggest hole. My biggest hole in my knowledge. I managed to get a PhD in English without knowing anything about mythology or the Bible. And it's a problem. I really need to read the Bible. Okay. Salario. I really need to read the Bible. Yeah. I mean, it's true. There's so many like allusions and stuff, and I've always lost it. I always am relying on your seminary classes to teach me. All right. Salario. And who wants to be Salario? Jaden. Okay, cool. Okay. So this scene is a love scene. So we need to play up the love. Okay, we're on page 51. So they're at Portia's house again, and in the scene is Bassiano and Portia. They're going to be talking back and forth, but kind of in the background is Graciano and Nerissa. And we start with Portia.
I pray you tarry, pause a day or two before you come. When choosing wrong, I lose your company. Therefore, for a fair while, there is something help me, but it is not love. I would not lose you, and you know yourself. But lest you should not understand me well, and yet a maiden has no time for thought. I would detain years and to I could how to choose right, but then I am forsworn. So will I never be. So may you miss me. But if you do, you'll make me wish a sin. Make me wish a sin, but I had been forsworn. But you roll your eyes. They have overlooked me and left me. One half of me is yours, the other half yours. Mine own I would say, but if mine and yours, and so all yours. All these naughty times, as far as between the owners. And so, though yours not yours, prove so, that fortune goes help, not. I speak too long, but 'tis too.
I don't know, etch maybe?
Etch it and to draw it out in life. To stay from home.
She just doesn't want Bassiano to choose a casket. She just wants to hang out with him longer. Let me choose. For as I am, I live upon the
And confess what treason bears me.
None but that ugly treason of mistrust, which makes me fear the enjoying of my love. There may as well be amity and like tween snow and fire as treason and my love.
I but I hear you speak from that. Where men enforced do speak to me.
Promise me life and I'll confess the truth.
Well then, confess to me.
Confessing love had been the very sum of my confession. Oh, happy torment, when my torturer doth teach me answers for deliverance. Oh, there's more.
Yeah.
But let me to my fortune in this casket.
Away then, I am locked in one of them. If you do love me, you will find me out. Nerissa and the rest stand all alone. Let music sound while he doth. My eyes shall be he may win in what is such it is as our days to sound that creeping to the truth. Now he goes with no less presence, but with much more than young
Spidey's? I don't know.
Then he did redeem the virgin truth, paid by Helen Troy to the monster. I stand for sacrifice, the rest of which I done in with clear with come forth to view the issue. Go, Hercules, live thou, I will. With much, much more dismay, I view the fight.
Okay, so everybody's like singing in this scene. Bassiano is kind of like thinking about which casket he's going to choose, and there's like a song going on, "Tell me where is fancy bread," or "in the heart" or "in the head." They quote that in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Tell me where's fancy bread, or "in the heart" or "in the head." How begot, how nourished, replied, reply, it is engendered in the eyes, with gazing fed and fancy dies, in the cradle where it lies. Let us all ring fancy's knell, all begin it, ding dong bell, ding dong bell.
So maybe outward shows release themselves. The world is still deceived with the ornament, and law with what please so tainted and corrupt, but being seasoned with the gracious voice obscures from the shows of evil. And religion, what damn error, but some sober brow will bless it, and approve it with a text. Hiding the grossness with fair ornament, there is no vice so simple, but assumes some mark of virtue of this outward part. How many cowards whose hearts are all false, or are all as false as stairs of sand, were yet upon their chins the beards of Hercules frowning Mars, who inward searched have livers white as milk. And these assumes the fowler's excrement to render them redoubted. Look on beauty, and you shall see 'tis purchased by weight, which therein works a miracle of nature, making the lightest that wear most of it. So are those crisp, snaky, golden locks, which make it such wanton.
Yeah, wanton. Yeah.
Wanton. Yeah,
not the food.
Gambles with the wind upon supposed fairness, often known to be dowry of a second head skull that bred the
Sepulcher.
Thus ornamented but gilded, sure to the most dangerous sea, the beauteous scarf, veiling an Indian beauty, and a word the same truth which cunning times upon the entrap the wisest. Therefore then, thou gaudy gold, hard food for Midas, I will none of thee, nor none of thee, thou pale and common drudge, between man and man, but thou meager, lead which rather threatenest than dost promise off. Thy paleness moves me more than eloquence, and here choose I joy be the consequence. Okay. This reminds me of when I was little, when you would write and just make up a bunch of words. That's what Shakespeare's writing.
I promise you it makes sense. There's the three caskets, right? And which one does he end up choosing?
What?
Lead. He chooses lead. So he says gold. Lots of people have been sort of like led astray by gold. Same with silver. So I'm going to go with the humblest one, the meager lead. Okay. Portia?
How all the other passions fade away, as that is in shredding fear, in my jealousy, all love, moderate, alive,
Ecstasy.
ecstasy. In measured rain, thy joy stands. I feel too much thy blessing with
She knows it's the right casket because the other two suitors have already looked at gold and silver and found not her picture. Okay. so he opens the casket.
What find I here? Fair Portia's counterfeit.
Her image.
yeah. When what demigod hath come so near creation, move these eyes, or whether riding on the balls of mine, seem they in motion? Here are severed lips, parted with sugar breasts, so sweet and far. Should sunder such sweet friends. Here in her hair is the painter plays the spider, and hath woven a golden mesh death, entrapped the hearts of men faster than gnats caught in cobwebs. But her eyes, how could he see to do them? Having made one, he thinks, sorry, that sounds like Jar Jar Binks. He thinks it should have power to steal both his and leave itself unfurnished. Yet look how far the substance of my praise doth wrong his shadow, and does the derising it. So far the shadow doth limp behind the substance. Here the scroll, the continent summary of my fortune. You that choose not by the view of chance is fair, choose as true, since this fortune falls to you, be content and seek so no new. If you be pleased with this and hold your fortune for your bliss, turn where your lady is and claim her with a loving kiss. A gentle scroll, fair lady, by your leave.
And they kiss.
I come by note to give to and to receive and to thank you. And to receive like one of two contending in a prize that thinks that he hath done well in people's eyes. Hearing applause and universal shout, giddy in spirit so gazing in doubt. Whether those peals praise to be his or no so, Christ fair lady, stand I even so, as doubtful whether what I see to be true until confirmed signed ratified by you.
You see me, Lord, the sun, here I stand, such as I am. The root, myself in love, I would not be ambitious in my wish, to wish myself much better, yet for you I would be troubled. 1,000 times more fair, that only to stand high and meet the count. I like and virtue, beauty, but the full sum of me is sum of men, which the term engross. Is an unlessoned girl, unschooled, unpracticed, happiness, she is not yet so old, but she may learn happiness. She is not ripe so old, but she can learn. Happiest of all is that her judgment will come itself to yours to be. As for the Lord, he, myself, and what is mine, to you and yours is now converted. But now I was the Lord of this very mansion, master of the queen over myself, and even now. But now this house be certain, and this same myself are yours, my Lord. I give them with this ring, which when you have them, lose or give away, let it presage the room, and be my vantage to explain it.
So the scenario here is either that her dad knows her really well, and so knows that the guy who would choose the lead casket would be the guy that she liked, or it's just really lucky that the guy that she likes chooses the lead casket, right? But either way, the way that Portia sees this is sort of like, okay, I was bound by my dad's rules, and now I give myself to you. There is no moment in this when Portia is free of a man's control. That's not seen as a bad thing here, though. That's a beautiful sort of love poem to Bassanio. Okay, Bassanio, go ahead.
Madame, you have bereft me of all words. Only my blood speaks to you in my veins, and these are such a confusion of my powers, as after some oration fairly spoke by a beloved prince, there doth appear among the buzzing pleased multitude, where every something being blent together turns to a wild of nothing, save of joy, expressed and not expressed. But when this ring parts from this finger, then parts life and from hence, oh, then be full to say Bassiano's dead.
My lord and lady, it is now our time that have stood by and seen our wishes prospered. Cry, good joy, my lord and lady.
My lord Bassiano and my gentle lady, I wish you all the joy that you can wish, for I am sure you can wish none for me. And when your honor is named to solemnize the bargain of your days, I do accede to you, even at the time.
He wants to be married too, he says.
With all my heart, so thou canst get a wife.
I thank your lordship. You have got me one. My eyes, my lord, can look as swift as yours. You saw the mistress, I can tell the maid. You loved, I loved, for intermission. No more pertains to me, my lord. Your fortune stood upon here. Look mine at my walls. For moving here until I sweat again, and swearing till my very roof is dry. With oaths above, at last, if promise last, I got promise of the spirit. You have to love, provided that your fortune is this true, Marissa?
Madame, it is. You stand pleased with all.
And to you, Grantio, mean good faith.
Yes, faith, my lord.
Bro, how do you say it?
Graciano.
Same. Graciano.
Our feast.
Oh, our feast shall be much honored in your marriage.
We will play them with the first boy for 1,000 ducats.
What? And stake down?
No, we shall never win at that sport. But who comes here? Lorenzo and his infidel. What? And my old Venetian friend Salario.
Okay, so somehow in like the last, like, I don't know, 5 minutes of Bassiano and Portia talking, Graciano and Nerissa have decided they're going to get married too, you know? I think they've probably known each other a while because Nerissa does know Bassiano. She's always a Bassanio. She's always like talking him up to Portia and they're like talking about him together. So there's been like relationships between them. Okay, so when he says Lorenzo and his infidel, that is Jessica. He's like making fun of Jessica a little bit, like playfully, by calling her an infidel because she's Jewish. Okay, so they come in.
Lorenzo and Salario, welcome hither. If that's the youth of my new interest here, have my card to bid you welcome. By your leave, I bid my very friend of court countryman, sweet Portia, welcome.
So do I, my lord, very excited.
I think, Your Honor, for my part, my lord, my purpose is not to have seen you here, but meeting with Salario by the way. You can treat me past all saying James come along. To come with him along.
I did, my lord, and I have reason for it. Senor Antonio commends him to you.
He gives Bassanio, sorry, a letter from Antonio.
Here, I ope this letter. Oh, I open it.
It's like before I open his letter.
Oh, here, I open his letter. I pray you tell me how good friend Dahl. Oh, how my good friend Dahl.
Not sick, my lord, unless it be in mind, nor well unless in mind. The letter there will show you his estate.
You open his letter?
Nerissa, cheer young stranger, good and welcome. Your hand, Salario, what is the good news from Venice? How doth that royal merchant, good Antonio? I know he will be glad of our success here. The Jason
I would you had won the fleece that he hath lost. There are such words complex and non-simply. Bless the heart of lost some years too. Some dear friends, when dead, as nothing in the world can so much the constitution of any person. But worse and worse, with the Bassanio, I am dead. And I must really have to have that his same good.
Okay, we're going to need to stop right there. So Bassanio just got news that Antonio's ships have been wrecked. And so when Portia says, oh, nothing but the death of a friend can make you look this way. I mean, it kind of is the death of a friend. If Shylock gets his way, it's going to be the death of a friend. So we'll stop there. Make sure your merchants get back to the back table. I didn't get a chance to run your books that are due. So if you have any books left from this class in your possession, after tomorrow, you're going to be charged for them. So bring them back to me. I should have given you warning. I forgot to. Bring them back to me. You can just stop by and set them on my desk tomorrow, and I will get those checked in so you don't have to deal with the library fine stuff. All right, Kylie, we are done. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, today. We'll see you later.